They say opposites attract.
Well, how about these opposites? Daddies and sons.
You're listening to Daddy and Son.
A podcast where we explore the dynamics of daddy and son relationships, multi-generational views,
and everything else in between.
Hello, gentle listeners. Thank you for joining me today, Daddy.
Good evening. Good
I really
evening.
appreciate you taking a break from your summer.
Well, you're taking a break too.
Yeah, I know. I know we said that we were going to be back in the first week of October. We're taking a summer break, but recent events brought us back. So I really appreciate you taking that time from biking in the woods and on the trails and cruising.
I don't bike in the woods. I do other things in the woods.
To be here with us today.
And it's the second week of October. Because the first Friday in October,
you're right.
I will still be in London, unfortunately, but I'll be back the next day.
You do a very convincing accent.
Well, for a certain part of London, yes. the kind of people you deal with there.
A very convincing accent, a very Londoner accent, I must say.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening, wondering, what the heck are we here? We're here for, you know what, I called Norm after the events that have happened this week, and I know a lot of things have happened this week, but I'm speaking particularly to the incident that happened to the late Charlie Kirk. And so I was like, we need to do a shoot your shit episode, or shoot this shit episode.
Focused on that topic.
Focus on that topic.
Yeah, because
no
it brings
pun intended on the shooting.
Yes, that's not maybe the best choice of words for this one, but because there's been a lot of shooting going on in the United States, and this was one that will be talked about for a long, long time.
Exactly. And, so we're not going to be doing the usual lead-ups. We're just going to jump right in because we want to handle this with, it's still going to be jokes. At least on my side, still going to have my little commentary, but I want to treat this with the gravitas that it deserves. And while Charlie Kirk was not someone that I celebrate or agreed with, I think his death speaks to a bigger conversation that I'm not seeing happening in the mainstream media, that I want to kind of have a sounding board with you and get your thoughts and opinions on the angle of the conversation that I will be bringing to the table.
Well, I'm interested in what you have to say. I got to admit to people that when I first heard the name, this Charlie Kirk had been shot, I immediately thought of, is that the guy that's on MSNBC once in a while? And I thought, no, that's not him. I did not really know who he was. He just was not on my radar. And I thought, why is that? And it was on your radar, not on mine. I think it's because we listen to different feeds of information.
Yeah, we get our news from different sources.
Yes.
And I think this is one thing. That's a
generational difference.
Yes,
exactly.
Between us, exactly. I'm not going to say I don't listen to traditional media. I'm not going to say I don't, but I'm going to be honest, Daddy. Traditional media is dead.
You don't need to apologize for it.
It's dead. It's dead, and it's dying. It's dying. And that's why there's news now on social media. Like most traditional media organizations have a social media division because they have to meet people where people are at. And cable TV is dying. And people are online, and most people are interested in short form content.
Yes, but cable TV is also online too. So are magazines.
Like they're moving to social media. They're moving online. They're moving to podcasting. They're getting
to bullets of information.
They're getting into spaces that are considered as untraditional, spaces that weren't meant for them. Remember, when YouTube started, even when people were commentating on news, that was for the common man. that was for like the me and you and the kids out there. And all of a sudden, celebrities started getting onto YouTube. News media started getting onto YouTube, putting clips onto YouTube.
Everything's on there. You can watch cats and dogs now on YouTube. But literally.
Literally.
Yeah. And by the way, cats scare the hell out of dogs, just in case anybody's wondering.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those cartoons of the dog chasing the cat?
There's a reason why there's a Netflix documentary called Don't Fuck with Cats. They're scary. They are scary. There's a reason why Egyptians worship them too.
Oh, but really? Okay.
That's a whole other conversation.
It sounds like it.
You know, it's a good thing that you actually mentioned that. And I'm happy that you did, that you didn't know who Charlie Kirk is. Because a lot of people didn't know who he was until recently. And also, remember, on Wednesday.
In Canada, we don't know all of the nuances of political stuff in the U.S. You may be more in touch, but I know of a number of Canadians that never heard of the guy.
Well, that I will agree with, but I don't agree that we don't feel the veracity of the nuances of American politics.
Oh, for sure.
American politics does impact Canada, not just in economical ways, but in social ways too. We have our own version of almost everything that the U.S. has, good and bad.
Well, we
have our own KKK, the Proud Boys. We have our own January 6th,
but there's so much. But there's so much more muted. And I was going to ask the question later on. Would this kind of thing
that is
happen
by
in
choice.
Canada? Well, it's also by culture.
I don't think so. I think it's by choice. And Charlie Kirk once described a democracy as a group of people who make decisions for everyone. If the greater majority of people say this is what we want, then to hell with everybody else. And while I don't agree with him, there is verisimilitude to a lot of things that he said. And I'm going to touch on that in a moment because that was his style. His style was to speak. His style was to rage bait by saying something that was completely untrue.
He challenged conventional
thought processes. And again, I'm going to...
What did you like about him?
Well, here's the thing. To describe what I like about him, I'd have to talk about what I didn't like about him. Right?
Okay, let's start there.
Let me introduce Charlie Kirk to you and the rest of the audience who may have never heard of him, or maybe don't even know what the hell we're talking about. So, Charles James Kirk, also known as Charlie Kirk, he was born October 14, 1993. So we are the same age. Well, he's older than me by a couple months.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He founded an organization when he was very young that is called Turning Point USA. And while
in his college years, about 18. Yeah. And can I supplement a couple things, because I've heard a lot about his stuff on a couple of podcasts lately. So if I hear something that I can add to, I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You can jump in at any time. So he started this organization called Turning Point, and it's a conservative student organization that is focused on free speech and free markets and Christian values and mobilizing right-leaning youth on campus.
I'd agree with that.
Now, he used that platform and became a media personality, a writer, influencer, even like a part-time lecturer, TV show host, radio show host, and it was deeply entrenched in the MAGA populist conservative movement in the United States. Social media played a huge part in his success because he created an unconventional, very people like to say nuanced, but I like to say highly, deeply polarizing conservative voice, especially for a young person online in a time where...
Extreme view for such a young guy. Yeah,
exactly. And at a time where
students weren't preoccupied with that stuff.
People weren't preoccupied with that stuff. Nobody, or if people were, you wouldn't hear it from younger crowds, and they were most definitely afraid to say that out loud, whether for fear of persecution, fear of losing their job.
And he wasn't afraid to say it.
And he was unabashed and unafraid. Now,
and he drew a lot of like-minded people to his side who said, yeah, he's right.
So that's one of the things that I respect about him, right? I respect
courage,
that he had the courage to
cojones.
Effectively speak to young people in an energizing way, that he could bring the base together through debates, even though it was done in a provocating way. All right. And he also was, apart from the fact that he was unapologetic and he didn't apologize for being conservative, he stood his ground on issues such as gun rights and abortion and religion. And we're going to go back to the gun rights thing, because that plays a huge part into today's topic.
Well, it's entrenched in U.S.
And it's entrenched into the reason he died, or the manner in which he passed. And, for a lot of people, he symbolized the counterpoint to the liberal dominance in academia and media that exists a decade ago.
Well, it still does.
No, it doesn't. In fact, left-leaning media. In fact, research was done by Reuters that shows that only 17% liberal only have 17% of media dominance in the United States right now.
Well, the media that's not. I don't think Trump would agree with you on that.
Well, Trump can say whatever he wants to say. When has Trump ever said anything that was factual?
Well, let's leave that one, because I vehemently disagree with you. I think universities and media are largely perceived as left of center, and that's
it's not about me. It's not what I said. It's about what Reuters.
Well, that may be one piece of data with a certain question, but I don't. I'd like to maybe explore that another time, because I just don't.
And we can explore that another time for sure, but I agree with it. When you look...
But isn't it good we have some disagreements on stuff once in a while?
Well, when you look at the White House lawn, then you literally look at it, even if you don't want to agree with me, when you look at the White House lawn, where is representation of liberal media that are taking questions and challenging Trump right now?
Well, they're not allowed there.
Exactly. They're
there. They're out there somewhere else.
They're not able to get access
because they've been pushed away.
They're not,
because Trump hates them. He thinks there's too much of it.
What does that mean? It means that there's a dominance of right-wing media today.
Well,
no one is saying that.
Well, maybe we're talking about different things. Let's put it this way. The NBCs, the MSNBCs, the CNNs, the New Yorkers, those are left of center. The New York Times, the Washington Post, these are what you call traditional media.
Yes.
They are heavily to the left of center.
And that's not...
They're certainly not pro-MAGA. They're not pro-Trump right now.
But that's not the point.
Well, that was what I was saying.
But they still exist.
Yeah.
But people aren't reading them anymore.
Well, lots of people...
You read them.
So let me ask, why is Trump so concerned about them?
Lots of people, because as long as a voice exists, there will always be a threat.
Well, that is the problem that the problem the Republic has right now. The right perceives a threat from the left, and they want to... And comments that Trump made after Charlie Kirk's death,
they want them eradicated.
So there's violent, not only physical violence with bullets. There's a political violence right now in America.
In fact, glad you mentioned that, because I actually have a clip of Trump addressing the U.S.
Right afterwards,
after Charlie Kirk got shot. We're gonna take a listen real quick.
And it was hardly what you'd call conciliatory, was it?
Absolutely not. Let's roll the clip.
Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now.
Okay, so let me stop this there. So this is the reason why I respect him, but I also do not like him.
Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And honestly, anyone who thinks that Trump is a friend, he's not. Trump is only as much of a friend as you can fill his pockets. And I think a lot of people needs to be weary of those who are friends while there's a check to be had. But I digress.
Well, are you talking about...
I'm talking about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, okay.
Because he's, and I'm going to get into that. Charlie Kirk is a professional grifter, so is Candace Owens.
Well, he filled Trump's pockets with
is
votes.
Ben Shapiro. Yes, absolutely.
That's what he did.
Here's the issue with what Trump says, right? He's talking about people comparing him and Charlie to Nazis, and it's the radical left. Charlie Kirk's apprehended shooter, who was apprehended this afternoon, as we're speaking, today's Friday, September 12th.
It's last night, actually.
Including on both attempts on Trump's life, the persons who shot at Trump, were all registered Republicans.
Yeah, and young white men.
And young white men. They weren't transgender.
They weren't blacks.
They weren't black. And they weren't brown.
They weren't liberals.
They were, and this took place in Utah, in a highly Republican state where open carry is legal.
Highly religious, too.
And highly religious. So let us start there. You are being attacked by your own audience because liberal people aren't listening to you. Left-wing people aren't following you.
True.
And that's why you've never heard of Charlie Kirk.
Well,
I just want to start there. You may agree or disagree, but I'm telling you, Norm, the reason you've not heard of him is not because he's American, not because you don't follow American politics, because you do, because it's salacious. But it's the reason you don't know who he is. It's because you don't listen to right-wing media. You listen to the New York Times, listen to the New Yorker. You listen to.
Well, are you accusing me of something?
No, I'm not accusing
you sound
you of
like
anything.
You sound like I'm being blamed for something.
You're not being blamed. You don't need to know who he is.
Well, I sure know who he is now.
I'm just saying it's not your fault.
There's a lot of people I don't know about.
And it's you don't know who he is because he's not your audience. So the mere fact that
That's true. That's true.
The people who are attacking these people are their audience. It's their base. But rather than taking the time, and this is not.
We don't know quite that yet. We don't know enough about this guy and what his motives were and where he comes from yet. And he's not talking to police. That's the latest news.
According to his family and close associates to him, and this is according to the county tanner, county tanner, and Dylan Ebunk, Kevin Reynolds, and Aaron Funk, who wrote an article about this in the Salt Lake Tribune.
Mm-hmm. That's probably their paper. Their local
in
paper.
Utah.
Yeah.
Who wrote this joint article together that was released. I'm reading it off Apple News. They're saying that they spoke to his close family's friends and parents. And they're all saying that he became heavily involved in recent times in politics, and they even shared shared conversations with Robinson and Kirk on social media. That because they
they exchanged messages.
Exchanged words in the past.
So what happened?
This is not our audience, Norm.
Well, but this guy went on. Fair enough. But the point is, what has happened in the United States is something that should be civil has blown up into something violent.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's in my opinion, this is a threat to the nation.
So before we jump there,
all right,
hold your horses. So because we still haven't given the context to the situation. So for those who are listening, on September 10th, that is this past Wednesday, at the Utah Valley University, Kirk had he was rebooting his tour called the American Comeback Tour, where he goes to different college campuses,
all around the country,
and debate typically libs at what he calls his prove me wrong table. So he would set up a table. So he would set up a table. I remember from back in the day, like from 2014. I remember when I first saw him on YouTube, where he had just this table and he sat down with his arms full and he said, prove me wrong. And a bunch of people would come up and debate with him. And it would be like 3 to 5 people. And that turned into now a crowd of over 3,000 people going to his tour. So that's why I respect him, because he was doing something that wasn't being done at the time.
Well, he had a cause.
And we see how that has evolved 10 years later. So the moment he was shot, what he was doing, he was responding to a question that a student had brought to him about gun violence and mass shootings, specifically.
Ironic, isn't it? The question that was being asked at the time.
The student asked, do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? And Kirk replied, counting or not counting gang violence.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with mass shooting. Nothing.
Didn't he say too many, or was that an answer to another question?
That was an answer to another question.
Okay.
And the irony of it is, in his very last podcast that he filmed on Monday, his very last podcast, 2 things stand out to me.
You listened to it?
I listen, Norm, you don't believe me when I tell you that I listen to everything.
Well, okay, you've listened. It's not that you heard what he said. You actually listened to the podcast.
I listened to everything.
All right.
I listened. I
don't know how you have the time to do all that. But
we had this conversation last year. We're talking about the U.S. election, saying that I know Trump is going to win. I have this deep feeling that Trump is going to win. It's like, people are energized about Kamala. I'm like, that's not what I'm seeing in the streets. And you're like, we're getting information from places. And I'm like, we clearly
the data streams are different. That has a lot to do with your perception and what.
But I don't think there is some truth to that, yes.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't just listen to left-wing media. I listen to everything.
Do you watch Fox?
I watch Fox.
Good for you.
I listen to the
I can't stand it. And now that Janine Paneer,
the RFK podcast when he was doing his podcast,
I can't stand to listen to that guy.
I listen to Ben Shapiro. I listen to Candace Owens. And the truth of the matter is, it is important to know who, and I hate to say this out loud, but it's important to know who your enemies are. And so it's important to know what they're thinking.
I think that's probably true.
Understand how they think.
What was the point you were starting to make, though, when I interrupted you?
The point I was trying to make is that he, in his very last podcast before he died, he spoke to the recent stabbing that happened to the Ukrainian girl.
Oh, on the bus.
On the bus.
Oh, wasn't that horrible?
And he was saying that Black crimes are more prominent in the United States and are responsible for more deaths, not just at white people, but amongst Black people themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about this that annoys me is that while there is a systemic problem that has led to gang violence, and not just amongst Black people, not just amongst white people or Latinos in the United States, it is a fallacy to state that the problem is with the Black community or the minority community, but he was alluding to the fact that gun violence is in the same breath or equates, has the same gravitas or the same equivalency, I should say, as mass shootings. And it does not. In fact, to even put it in the same category as two rivaling groups of people.
Yeah, they're totally different. I agree. They're totally, there's...
in an isolated incident attacking each other versus somebody randomly shooting up a church, shooting up a concert, shooting up a club, shooting up a church filled with kids praying.
There's evil in the world.
Does not equate to the same thing. And it's speaking of evil in the world, I think it's evil that he would even make such a comparison. I think a lot of it is grifting. It's rage. Granted, he said all of that while Bitcoin.com logo was in the background waving around on the on the monitor that was sponsoring his show.
Okay, and that's significant because
it's a money grab. He says things that are salacious. He says things that are provocative. Not because I believe
to generate income,
to generate income, to get eyes, to get views. I genuinely believe so.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, whatever reason he had a following, and he had a following that migrated to Donald Trump in the election. In fact, Trump told a reporter, and he told the reporter not to say this aloud, but the reporter reported this after Charlie Kirk's death. Trump told him that, Charlie, you're probably one of the most important three people that helped get me elected. And it's because he mobilized these young people.
Absolutely.
And that's power, man.
Particularly
that's power.
Young white males. And that is powerful.
Yeah.
I just find it ironic.
But it's ironic that it was a white young male that ended his life.
And it's white young men that have been shooting after Trump. We need to not forget this point, because there's a lot of anger towards libs right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you see on the news.
Trump said it as himself.
There's a lot of anger towards libs, and it's misdirected. It's misdirected, and his death is being politicized. The irony is, and there's an old saying, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Yes.
He's
in the Old Testament.
There we go. He spent his career, built a career.
Well, he was a provocateur.
Even the moment he died, he was provocatively defending the Second Amendment, which is the right, for those who are not American or maybe are not familiar with American
constitutional law.
Constitution.
It's the right to bear arms.
It's the right to bear arms.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? So he got shot in the neck. He was rushed to a hospital, but he died later that day. And, eyewitnesses had said that they saw a man jumping off a roof, 20 feet off a roof, with a hunting rifle, which was later found and confiscated by the FBI. A suspect called Taylor Robinson was apprehended yesterday, late yesterday, as you mentioned, after two other persons were both apprehended and released because they were at this point pulling at straws. These people were not the actual shooters. Who is Taylor Robinson, the actual shooter? We still don't know yet. However, interviews and discussions from reporters to the family seems that it's going to point him to being the shooter. Now,
it's a slam dunk.
The irony is that he said, counting or not counting gang violence. And as I've mentioned, this does perplex me because it's a very perverted and provocative way of answering the questions. I think his space right now, or people like him, like the Ben Shapiro's and the Candace Owens, as I mentioned, it's the timing. It's the timing. The United States right now is in a moment of high polarization, political violence, and culture wars. That these very people themselves have enticed, endorsed, and fueled. And this escalation does not come out of nowhere. There is a deeper conversation at hand that people in the mainstream media are not talking about. And it's not that, we need to respect everybody for their opinions. We should. And I don't like Charlie Kirk. I think he's a piece of shit human being, but I don't believe he should have been gunned down to his death.
No.
I don't. No more than I think Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, should have been gunned down to his death. I don't believe that they should have. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend as if I don't understand people's frustration and relief that they're no longer here. I'm not going to sit here and be a hypocrite and pretend as if I don't understand it. Which leads me to my point of the bigger conversation that nobody's having. If this is happening on one side, if this is happening on the right, and the call is coming from inside the house, ring, ring, it's inside the house. The call is coming from inside the house. It's registered Republicans and white men who are taking action to the call to action. Because you see, people say there's no room for political violence. But why are we not talking about the use of words? Words have meaning.
And
words
power.
are a call to action. Words, thank you, Norm. Words have power.
You are so passionate today. I can't believe the passion you're displaying on this.
But because political violence doesn't start with gun violence. Political violence starts with words. When Charlie Kirk says that,
yeah, that's true.
The person who
hold on a minute.
Pelosi, if they let him out, if they bail him out of jail, they'll be a patriot. But that is political violence. When Trump goes and says that I could shoot someone in Times Square and I would get away with it, and people would still love me, that is political violence.
All right, let's lower the temperature a little bit. Remember that freedom of speech gives a lot of leeway to dialogue. And what's happened is some people go to the very far extreme and they generate a lot of energy and emotion. Charlie Kirk did that.
Okay,
he had a constructive outcome. He got people to vote for a certain cause, which put Mr. Trump into power.
But I believe that freedom of speech only goes one way. It only goes one way.
How do you mean?
Freedom of speech only goes, right now in the United States, freedom of speech only goes one way. If reporters speak poorly about Trump or about anyone associated with Trump, they get fired.
Or they get excommunicated from the White House press pool.
Or that too.
Yeah, because
that is not freedom of speech. But when it's on the flip side, it's okay. Even if the words are a call to act, when people
that are being violated,
when people like Maxine Waters or Gavin Newsom or Jasmine Crockett compare Trump to Nazis or the MAGA movement to Nazism, this is not them saying that Trump is a Nazi. They're making comparisons. When Trump is in a rally and someone holds up a protest placard and says, release the Epstein files, and Trump says, beat that person up. Boo, boo, beat that person up. And people actually beat that person up and throw them out of a rally. That's not freedom of speech. So that's a call to action.
It is, and Trump basically reiterated that in his post statement on
So
Charlie Kirk's-
I find
Where's it all going? Where's it all
well, I don't know where it's going, but I do
I know
know.
where I'm going. I'm going to get some more wine.
You know what? Let's take a quick break and then talk about where this is all going. Let's refill our glasses. Refill your glass too. We'll be right back. And we're back.
We're back.
So where's this going?
Yeah, what impact is it going to have in the United States? And is it going to have any impact here? Or do we really need to even worry about that right now?
I think we should. I think this is a very important turning point. One thing I do. Okay, let me answer let me be affirmative about. Let me answer how I was taught to answer questions. Affirmatively, I don't know. Okay. I don't know, but
No, that's our
here's the
province.
thing, right? Here's the thing. But here's my prediction.
Can I do a drum roll? Do a drum roll in the. Okay.
I do see that this is going to be used to create a movement. I think the right have been looking for their martyr, and they found him.
Could be. May I suggest the other way of looking at it? There isn't anybody like Charlie Kirk who could mobilize that cohort, that constituency like he could, and it may fizzle out. Or at least the Turning Point USA might fizzle out.
I don't think so.
Okay, well,
I think somebody else is going to pick up the mantle because he didn't start Turning Point by himself. He started it with his best friend. And one of the things that with a gentleman, his name is Bill Montgomery, right? Who is an American businessman, conservative. I think that
it's a very white name, isn't it?
it has a lot of mayonnaise on it. It's very heavy with the mayonnaise. One of the things that I think that Charlie Kirk is going to come out of this, though, while I don't know for sure, is one thing is that I other than the fact that I believe they're going to use him as their martyr, is I am kind of happy that this happened in Utah. It didn't happen in Illinois. I'm happy it happened in Utah.
A red state rather than a blue state.
Right.
Okay.
Rather than California.
That's a good point.
I think that the Trumps of the world and the Kristi Noems and the Kellys, the Megyn Kellys were like crashing out online right now. You know, saying that libs are the problem. This is because of libs, comparing them to Nazis.
Well, that narrative is not going to go away.
It's not going to go away, but as long as these situations keep happening in red states by registered conservative voters, I think it will keep a certain level of narrative at bay. I think it will keep a certain level of call to action at bay, at least for now.
Against the left.
Against the left, right. Because
maybe.
For now, because at the end of the day, let's call it what it is. They aren't the most educated group of people.
No, but I'll tell you, the
and
first reaction from Trump...
manipulated.
But the first reaction from Trump is, it's these damn leftists that did this. That's what's happened here. He's already on the fence.
Oh, of course. Of course, absolutely. When it has nothing to do with left.
But the perception is that it does. That's
because
what they perceive.
That's what they tell people to believe.
Well, that's what they think, too. And if they think that, they're going to act on it.
Do you actually believe?
Do I actually believe?
That Trump believes that the left is out to get him? Even though...
Who TF? knows what Trump believes or thinks most of the time.
I don't think he believes it. I think
But he's saying it. That's what's important.
No, but he's saying it not because he believes it. He's saying it because Trump knows how to manipulate people. People keep forgetting this one main fact. Trump is not a politician. Trump is a television producer. He's a reality TV
He's a communicator.
Star. He's a communicator. He knows how. He's a businessman. He knows how to engage people.
True.
He knows what makes good television. Why else would they be having a UFC match on the White House lawn?
Why would they be paving the Rose Garden?
We are living in unserious times. We're living in a time where they're literally making a TV show, a reality TV show,
out of U.S. politics.
Out of U.S. politics.
Well, it was starting that way even in the first term. But you know what I'm afraid of? Violence and stuff aside, I am spending more time worried about the politics and the demise of democracy in the United States. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm really, really... That I do read about a lot, and I think about it. Maybe I'm a little bit, the blind spot on the Charlie Kirk stuff. But, hey, there's a lot of crappy stuff going on in the United States right now, and it's all because of Trump and his people and his followers.
I believe a lot of this is not even so much the followers to be blamed, because you can't blame sheep for being sheep.
Well,
I think a lot of it is the people who are smart enough to capitalize on the bandwagon. The same people who once were saying that Trump should never be trusted, Trump is a horrible person.
Now they support him and they're allowing him to do stuff.
And allowing him to do stuff, co-signing his bullshit.
That really, really bugs me. Oh.
But it's because there's money to be made out of conservatism right now. There's money to be made out of the outrage. There's money to be made.
There's money to be made everywhere. I'm not sure money's the issue, though.
I hope Charlie Kirk enjoyed his 30 pieces of silver. And for the rest of them who are still alive, I hope it buys them a clue. Because this reckoning that they're engaging, this narrative that they're pushing, and they're rallying up their base, this divisiveness, this war that they're causing there's an old saying, and again, it probably biblical, but when you dig a grave, when you decide to set on revenge, dig 2 graves.
That isn't in the Bible, but it's an interesting...
I said maybe it's biblical. I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like that one. When you set on revenge, dig 2 graves.
Dig 2 graves.
Boy, that's an interesting line. I've never heard that before. That's good. I like that.
I'd like to even tweak it. When you decide to set on political war, dig 2 graves. Because the call to action that he's calling for libs may just very well bounce back on him. Because the one thing, and I've said this in previous podcasts, Trump voters, the majority of them, the rednecks, the rural farmers, they can't afford to be poor.
A lot of them are.
But a lot of them are.
Just because, and they're getting poorer because of the tariff war. Especially in the Midwest and the farms. So
Trump and people like Trump and Charlie Kirk don't realize that people are angry, not because of libs. People are angry at themselves for the decision they've made for believing that some wealthy millionaire who is now a billionaire, who didn't give a shit about people before, would have now given a shit about them.
Are you saying a lot of people in the United States are having buyer's remorse in terms of voting for Trump?
And they're acting out because of it.
All right, that may be. Can I ask a question? You're as passionate tonight as I've ever seen you in any of our podcasts. Why are you so worked up about this? Because this isn't it's another country.
No, it's not. It's our neighbor.
It's our neighbor, but
if you hear,
but their politics is not our politics.
I disagree, Norm. If you hear your neighbor beating his wife next door and smoking weed Are you going to sit there and you're going to sit there and mind your business because it doesn't bother you?
I'm going to bang on a bloody wall.
Exactly.
Well,
the U.S. is not just our neighbors.
Look, it's okay to be interested in what goes on in the
but
U.S.
it's not just an interest. Like I said, the U.S. is an echo chamber for almost everything that happens in Canada. Canada is a U.S. wannabe so bad.
Well, not right now. It's not.
Canada is a U.S. wannabe so bad, and you like to say
that's changing a little bit.
You like to say it's not, and it's changing on this and that, and I've said this before. Carney is just a conservative in a red cloak. I've said this so many times.
Look, I'm interested in the U.S. as well. I find their politics, their whole everything there. Like you said, it's a show. It's much more interesting than what's going on.
My interest is not because it's interesting. Uh-huh. My interest is because the rhetorics are echoed here.
Well, what I'm concerned about is that the impact of the decisions that are made there affect us socially and economically.
Absolutely.
Right now, it's economic impact that's much bigger than social.
Well, you feel the economic impact because as a very masculine presenting white male, you don't feel the social impact as much, if at all.
I'm looking at the workers in Windsor that are losing their job, and in Oshawa, and the steel mills.
But that's an economic impact.
Well, it is, and those
But the social impacts, Norm, you don't get affected by them. If anything, you are beneficiary.
How so?
Of the social, because when we talk about the social impacts to the U.S. echo chamber, we're talking about adverse racism. And we see how that shows up in topics like education, deportation. We see how that shows up in situations such as feminism, homosexuality, transgender rights. And you, again, as a masculine, cis male presenting person who is Caucasian, are unaffected by these things. Nobody's going to ever say Norm needs to be deported because of his thought process. But they're literally looking for loopholes and they're deporting born U.S. citizens.
All right, how about
while that does not happen here right now, Canada is one election away of possibly having the same policies socially and economically as the United States.
But it won't be as severe. It will be more muted. It will be more gentle.
That is what you believe. Well, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Canada is just like the United States. It's an oligarch state. It's just soft power, and Canada is just better at. What did you just say earlier? What did you say just now? It's not as what?
Severe or more gentle?
It's more gentle. Yeah. Thank you. Perfect words. Canada is just a lot more gentle
and subtle
about pushing the oligarch agenda.
Well, here's my
because we all know Canada is run by 10 families.
Well, we're also
the Rogers, the Eatons, the Westons.
I don't want to get into
I don't want to get into Canadian politics. That.
No, look, I'm not. I don't want to get into Canadian politics. You're right about the what did the writers say? Ibbotson and my friend the pollster. The elite, the East Coast conspiracy, the money in Toronto and Montreal and Ottawa. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine. That runs our country. But what's also happening, there's a lot of things going on in this country that may reflect what's going on in the U.S. They may follow it. Immigration's becoming a bigger issue here. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of different issues.
We've spoken about this in the past. We have had our disagreements, but we've discussed this. Listeners, go back to our previous podcast where I've mentioned that immigration is a manufactured issue in Canada. I don't believe the issue is immigration. I believe the issue is corruption and infrastructure. If we had the infrastructure to accept these people that are coming in, the influx of people that we're taking in, things would be better. But even if we didn't have the influx of immigration that we had, it wouldn't change anything to do with the the price of housing and employment and skills in Canada, because a lot of that is due to lack of investment in our people. It's mismanagement of our tax-paying dollars. I've said that before, and I
don't totally disagree with that.
And I still stand by that. I'm staying true to.
We don't respond though with the degree of extremism, and we're just not as extreme.
So
a
what
culture.
what did you call the
which I think is good that we don't have that.
What did you call the trucker protest? If that's not extremism,
it was certainly the most vocal, outspoken. I don't know if that was extremism.
They tried to assassinate members of the House of Commons.
It was a big pain.
If that is not extremism, what is it? Norm, lest we forget, when Trudeau had invoked the Patriots Act, everybody was off their rockers. Everybody was upset. Everybody was pissed.
Yeah, I know.
Meanwhile, Trump brings in a National Guard, and it's a heaven sent. Military state. You wouldn't go. You wouldn't be going to North Korea. You wouldn't be going to Russia. But nobody. But still, America is okay when the soldiers are policing the street.
You know what? Daddy feels he's being assaulted tonight. I'm going to stop talking.
Well, that was.
You won all the arguments.
That wasn't directed to you. But that is me. Like I said, everybody was in their feelings when when Trudeau brought in. When he invoked the Patriots Act.
You don't feel he overreacted?
I believe they're one for one. And I'm not saying he didn't overreact. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, well,
I am saying...
I do, but anyway.
I'm not saying he didn't overreact.
Who knows? It was 5 years ago.
Daddy, it's not about whether he overreacted, yes or no. I am speaking to the contrast and the difference to the reception of the two actions. That is what I'm speaking to. I believe Trudeau overreacted then, and I do believe Trump overreacts now.
Well, I think what's going to be interesting going forward.
However, I do believe, and hold your point, I do believe that Trudeau, especially after two members of the House of Commons' lives were attempted to be assassinated by members of the Proud Boys and the trucker community, right? I do believe that action needed to be taken. Whether that was the correct action, I don't know. And we will never know. But action was necessary.
Well, he did what his dad did in 1970 with the War Measures Act.
To clean up crime in D.C., I don't believe invoking the National Guard, which is nothing more than an invasion of one state into another,
but you know
was
what?
necessary.
But you know what? You know where the National Guard is not going? They're not going to Southeast D.C. Where's most of the crime in D.C.? It's in the Southeast. They're not doing what they're supposed to even be doing.
Shout out to the DMV. If anybody from there listening.
DMV is Department of Motor Vehicles.
No, it's the Detroit, Detroit, Maryland, and Virginia area.
The DMV. DC, Maryland, and Virginia.
Yeah, that's what I said. Shout out to the
Detroit.
DMV.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
DC, Maryland. You ever been down there? Have you been to DC?
I've never been to DC, but
it's an amazing city.
I made a new friend who just moved here from the DC area.
Okay.
His father is a very prominent person in the DC area, and
where is he from? Virginia or Maryland or
no, he's from DC, but his father's in the music business, so they moved to Atlanta and.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, he's so shout out to him, shout out to the DMV, I whether he was overreacting then, I don't know, but I just know action needed to be taken, and whether Trump is overreacting now, yes, I believe he's overreacting, but I also do believe that action needed to be taken about
those cities. You mean
about the crime in the U.S., in all cities.
He just walked in, they just sent him into Memphis
today. But I don't think the answer is sending in the National Guard. There needs to be a coordinated federal response with local enforcement, but you're not going to get that by creating the District of Columbia into a military state.
The District of Crime, as some Republicans call it. But anyway, actually, I just call it that. I don't know if they do.
Maybe that should be the name of today's episode, District of Crime. But, you know. But anyhow, I've exhausted.
Ode to Charlie.
An ode to Charlie. I've exhausted all my bullet points.
Wow. Bullets they were. I'm telling you, I was on the receiving end of a lot of them.
I just want, again, thank you all for listening today. You know, even though this was an unconventional, unusual episode.
It sparked a lot of passion.
It did spark a lot of passion, and I did think it was important that we came together today to have this conversation in a very nuanced way that the mainstream media isn't discussing, because there's a deep, like I said, and even beyond what we have spoken, there are deeper conversations to be had to the grifting of impressionable and moldable minds, whether they're young liberals or young conservatives in Canada and the US. In fact, CBC did an article about the importance of Charlie Kirk to Canadian conservative youth, and I think you should go take a look at it. I will put it in the bio and I'll send it to you later on. It's an important read. And they have a video version of it. It's an important watch. Yeah. And it speaks to how the influence of the United States, it spreads across the border, not like a wildfire, but more like a cancer. And with that, do you have any final words for the listeners?
Just that it'll be a very interesting few months in the United States in terms of what follows on from here, including the tariff issue that's going to go to the Supreme Court.
It's always pocketbook issues with you, isn't it?
Listen, that one's got a lot of impact on us here too. But it's also got a lot of impact on the United States as a democracy.
Oh, absolutely.
And the Supreme Court as an arbiter and not in the back pocket of the president.
If it's anything I've learned from watching The Sopranos, is that money brings people together and can tear families apart.
Money can pull them apart too, right?
Exactly. Shout out to all the mobsters and the mafias out there. Mm-hmm. I think for me, I just want our listeners to just stay prayed up. Listen to everything from everywhere. Social media, traditional media.
Broaden your input.
Listen to things from right wing, left wing, center right, purple, blue, yellow, green, and burgundy.
Old and new. Generational view, old generational views and new generational views.
And young views as well. The donkey, the elephant, and the fish. With that being said, thank you for listening to today's podcast. And if you've made it all the way to the end, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Daddy and Son Podcast. That is at Daddy and Son Podcast. Remember, we are now available over on iHeartRadio, so go download the free iHeartRadio app and support the show. If you have any other questions for the show, send them over to daddyandsonpodcast@gmail.com. That's DADDYANDSON podcast@gmail.com. Until next time, sons, be good to your daddies.
And daddies, be kind to your sons.
And we will see you in October.